15 years ago, I lost my son in a tragic accident. I witnessed his lifeless body in the casket, felt the chill of his skin, and participated in the somber ritual of burying him. Last night, however, at 3:27 a.m., my cell phone rang, displaying his name. When I answered, I heard his bewildered voice asking, "Mom, where am I? It's completely dark in here." How can one's heart continue to beat upon hearing the voice of someone they have buried? Before I delve deeper, I encourage you to check your subscription to this channel and share in the comments where you are tuning in from. We are always eager to learn how far our stories reach. My name is Alar Vance, and for the past 15 years, I have carried a void in my heart where my son once resided. Zion was only 17 when he tragically passed in a motorcycle accident, struck head-on by a drunk driver who ran a red light on a rainy night. The moment I received the call from the hospital at 11:42 p.m., my knees buckled. "Miss Ara Vance, mother of Zion Vance," the voice said, and I knew, even before the doctor completed the sentence, that my fears had been confirmed. An invisible bond that had always connected me to Zion had been abruptly severed. The viewing was a blur. I sat beside his casket, unable to cry, staring at his face, which appeared as though he were merely sleeping, save for the grayish hue of his skin and the heavy makeup attempting to mask the bruises. I spent the night holding his icy hand, futilely wishing for his fingers to curl around mine, just as they had when he was a child. At the cemetery, I placed a white rose on his casket as it was lowered, and the sound of dirt hitting wood marked the moment when reality hit me like a freight train. My son was gone. I would never again hear his laughter, feel his embrace, or witness his milestones, graduation, marriage, or parenthood. All that remained were photographs, clothes imbued with his scent, and memories that would inevitably fade. Zion's father, Darius, could not cope. 6 months after the funeral, he sought a divorce, stating he could not bear to look at me without being reminded of our loss. Perhaps he was right. I, too, struggled to see him without feeling the absence of our child. Our 20-year marriage concluded with a signature on cold paperwork, another loss to add to my collection. While Darius moved on, remarrying and having other children, I remained trapped in my grief. Zion's room became a sanctuary, untouched and frozen in time, with his clothes still in the closet, worn sneakers beside the bed, and unfinished schoolwork scattered about. I could not bear to part with anything. Every item seemed to hold a fragment of him. Every Sunday, without fail, I visited his grave, bringing fresh flowers, cleaning his headstone, and pulling weeds. I spoke to him as if he could hear me, sharing updates about my life and the world. Sometimes I would read aloud, recalling how much he loved being read to before bed. People told me to move on, as though it were simple to leave behind the child who had once grown within me, as if there were a deadline for a mother's grief. I sought therapy, joined support groups, and tried antidepressants, but nothing healed that wound. I only learned to coexist with the pain, carrying it as a constant companion. For 15 years, I kept Zion's cell phone number active, paying the bill monthly to occasionally hear his voicemail message in his youthful voice. Those few seconds of audio served as a portal to a world where he still existed, where his voice resonated in the air. Others moved on. His friends graduated, married, and had children, while I remained in a limbo between life and death, merely existing, counting the days until I could be reunited with my son. Then, on August 14th, 15 years after the accident, it happened. At exactly 3:27 a.m., my phone rang, pulling me from a restless sleep. In the darkness, the screen illuminated the name I never expected to see, Zion. No, it was not Zion. I had renamed the contact years ago for when I called just to hear the voicemail. Yet it appeared as if someone had restored the original contact. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs, and my hands trembled so violently that I nearly dropped the phone. It couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, a glitch, or perhaps a final descent into madness after years of grappling with loss. The phone rang on relentlessly. On the seventh ring, something inside me snapped, and I answered. For several seconds, I heard only slow, hesitant human breathing. "Hello?" I whispered, my voice faltering. More silence. Then, "Mom." The voice was unmistakably his, echoing the same tone, the same slight drawl of the word mom. "Where am I? It's completely dark in here." The air froze in my lungs. The walls of the room seemed to close in around me. This could not be happening. Zion was all I could manage as my body trembled. Yeah, it's me. I don't know where I am. I can't see anything. I'm cold. What happened to me? I switched on the lamp beside the bed, hoping the light would dispel the madness. My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. It could be a cruel joke, an auditory hallucination caused by medication and sleepless nights. Yet that voice, I would recognize it anywhere. Zion, is that really you? I asked, tears streaming down my face. How? How is this possible? I don't know, Mom, he replied, his voice sounding distant and confused. I remember the crash. I remember the rain, the car lights coming right at me, and then nothing, just darkness. And now I'm here, but I don't know where here is. I can't see anything. I feel like I'm trapped. A sob escaped my throat as I jumped up, stumbling across the room while clutching the phone like a lifeline. Zion, you died 15 years ago. I buried you. Silence enveloped the conversation, a weighty silence that felt tangible. No, Mom, I can't be dead. I'm talking to you. I'm thinking. I'm feeling. I just can't move. Everything is tight around me. A chill ran down my spine, tight like a coffin. My God, could it be a hospital mistake? Someone declared dead prematurely? Stories of people being buried alive flooded my mind in a torrent of horror, yet it seemed impossible. I saw him at the viewing. I touched his cold skin. He was buried 15 years ago. He couldn't possibly be alive after all this time. Where are you right now? I asked, striving to maintain a steady voice. What do you see around you? Nothing. It's totally dark. I can feel wood. I'm lying down on something hard. There's a weird smell like dirt and mold. Mom, I'm scared. My blood ran cold. He was describing a casket. How could he know that? How could he be conscious after 15 years? Calm down, my son, I said, my mother's instinct overriding the panic. I'm going to help you. Just tell me how I can find you. I don't know. I just remember the accident and then waking up here. Mom, how long did you say it's been? 15 years, Zion. My voice broke. You died in 2010. I heard his breathing quicken, turning into desperate sobs. It can't be. It can't be. I'm 17. How could I have lost 15 years of my life? I grasped the dresser to steady myself, the absurdity of the situation overwhelming. The voice of my son, my dead son, resonated through the phone with the same clarity as when he was alive. Zion, I'm going to find you, okay? I'm going to find a way. Even I didn't believe what I was saying, but the desperation in his voice compelled me to promise anything. Just don't hang up. Please don't hang up. The battery's dying, Mom. Panic laced his voice. The phone's flashing. I don't want to be left alone in here. Wait, Zion. How are you calling me? Where did you get a phone? My mind raced with questions, searching for logic amid the madness. It was in my pocket, my old cell phone. I don't know how it still works, but the screen says the battery is almost dead. His old cell phone, the one buried with him at his request in the will he wrote at 16, during a phase when he was preoccupied with thoughts of mortality. At the time, we thought it was merely a teenage whim, but we respected his wish. Zion, listen to me, I urged, attempting to organize my chaotic thoughts. Do you remember Cypress Grove Memorial Park in Stone Mountain? That's where we buried you, in the east wing near the big oak tree. If you're in the casket, that's where you are. Cemetery? He echoed, his voice trembling. I'm really dead. I don't know anymore, son. I don't know what's happening, but I'm coming there right now. Mom, the battery's almost... His voice began to cut out, panic rising. Please help me. Zion, I screamed into the phone, but only heard the call-ended signal. He had hung up or the battery had died. Trembling, I tried to call his number back. Nothing. Just the automated message stating that the number did not exist, as if those brief minutes of conversation had never occurred. I did not pause to consider the logic or impossibility of the situation. I threw on a jacket over my pajamas, grabbed my car keys, and rushed to the garage. It was nearly 4 a.m. as I drove recklessly through the deserted streets of Atlanta, my heart pounding as if it would explode. The cemetery would be closed at that hour, but I knew the night watchman, Mr. Silas. Over years of Sunday visits, we had formed a silent friendship. He always allowed me a few extra minutes past closing time when I lost track of time while talking to Zion's grave. I parked haphazardly at the cemetery entrance and ran to the guard booth. Mr. Silas was sleeping in a chair, startled awake by my frantic knocking on the glass. Miss Allar, what happened? It's 4 in the morning. I need to get in, Silas, now. It's urgent. It's about my son. He regarded me as if I had lost my mind, and perhaps I had. But Miss All, I interrupted him. I know it sounds crazy, but I need to go to his grave right now. Please. Something in my desperate expression must have convinced him, as he nodded, grabbed a bunch of keys and a flashlight. I'll go with you. It's not safe to be alone out here in the dark. I didn't have time to thank him. I was already racing down the stone path I knew so well, illuminated only by the waning moon. Mr. Silas followed closely behind, panting as he struggled to keep pace with my frantic speed. 15 years of visiting the same spot had created a precise mental map in my mind. Even in the darkness, I knew how to navigate to Zion's grave, left at the Almeida Mausoleum, right at the angel statue, following the cypress path to the big oak tree. There, beneath the shadow of that centuries-old tree, was the marble headstone inscribed with his name, Zion Eduardo Vance, 1993 to 2010, beloved son, forever in our hearts. I fell to my knees in front of the grave, the world spinning around me. What did I expect to find? A call from beyond the grave did not mean I could dig him up and find him alive. 15 years was too long. Even if there had been a mistake, even if he had been buried alive, a thought that sent shivers down my spine, there would be no way to survive that long underground. Miss Ara, Mr. Silas approached, concern etched on his face. Are you all right? I did not respond. My eyes remained glued to the earth above the grave, firm and intact soil covered by a carpet of well-kept grass that I had planted years ago. There is no sign of disturbance, nothing to indicate that someone or something emerged from there. He called me, Silas, I murmured, unable to look away from the grave. My Zion called me less than half an hour ago. The watchman placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice gentle. Mara, you had a nightmare. It happens when we lose someone we love. It wasn't a dream, I screamed, pushing his hand away. I was awake. I answered the phone. It was his voice. I began scraping the grass with my fingernails, attempting to claw at the dirt with my bare hands. It was madness, I knew that. A grave is almost 6 feet deep. I would never reach the casket that way. But reason abandoned me the moment I heard my son's voice on the phone. Miss Ara, please. Mr. Silas grasped my wrists, preventing me from continuing that futile effort. You'll hurt yourself. This isn't normal. I broke down in tears, smearing my face with dirt from my hands. He said it's dark. He said he's trapped. Silas, how can I leave him like that? How? The watchman helped me to my feet, supporting me as I trembled. I'm going to take you home. You're very upset. Tomorrow, everything will look different. But I knew it wouldn't. Nothing would be the same after that call. If I could not dig up my son with my own hands, I needed to find another way to comprehend what was happening. His phone, I murmured as Mr. Silas guided me out of the cemetery. It was with him in the casket. How could it work after so many years? How could it have a battery? How could it get a signal down there? The watchman did not respond, likely thinking I was delirious. And perhaps I was. Perhaps the loneliness and grief had finally eroded what remained of my sanity, creating an alternate reality where my son could somehow still contact me. I drove home in a daze, my eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. Mr. Silas insisted on following me in his car to ensure I arrived home safely. I assured him I would try to rest and that I would call my doctor in the morning. White lies to calm a good man who cared for me. As soon as I closed the door, I rushed to the phone and attempted to call Zion's number once more. Nothing. The same message indicating that the number did not exist. I tried 10-20 more times, always receiving the same result. I sat in the kitchen, trembling, trying to organize my thoughts. I needed help, someone who would believe me or, at the very least, pretend to believe while I figured out what was happening. Darius, Zion's father. If there was anyone who could understand, it would be him. Although our relationship had deteriorated post-divorce, we shared a love for our son. I glanced at the clock, 5:12 a.m. Too early for a typical call, but this was no ordinary situation. I dialed his number, which I still knew by heart, even after all these years. After 4 rings, I heard his sleepy voice. Alara, is that you? Is something wrong? Darius, my voice trembled. I need to tell you something. It's going to sound crazy, but I need you to listen. I relayed everything: the call, Zion's voice, the phone in the casket, my frantic trip to the cemetery. I anticipated him interrupting, calling me crazy, or suggesting psychiatric hospitalization. Instead, Darius listened in silence, breathing heavily on the other end of the line. When I finished, a long silence ensued. "Do you believe me?" I finally asked, my voice small and uncertain. "I don't know what to believe, Ara," he replied, his tone strangely composed. "But I know you wouldn't make something like this up. Now I need your ion. I need your help. I need to understand what's happening. What do you want to do? Exhume the body?" The words escaped before I could think. "I need to be sure, Darius. I need to see what's down there." More silence. "You know that's almost impossible, right? We'd need court authorization. It's going to take time, and even if we get it 15 years, there won't be much to see." "I know, but I need to try. If there's the slightest chance a mistake happened, I'll be there in an hour," he said unexpectedly. "We'll talk in person." I hung up the phone, sitting motionless in the kitchen, trying to process everything that had transpired during that surreal morning. Part of me wanted to believe it was just a vivid dream, that I had fallen asleep on the couch and my mind had played a cruel trick on me. Yet I knew it wasn't true. The call had been real. The voice had been Zion's. My son was trying to contact me from somewhere between life and death. Darius arrived in less than an hour, his graying hair disheveled, deep circles under his eyes. When I opened the door, I saw the same man who had been my husband for 20 years, now older, with deeper lines on his face, but his eyes held the same look, the same eyes that Zion had inherited from him. "You look terrible," he remarked, attempting to ease the tension with humor. "You're not looking your best either," I retorted, allowing him inside. We sat in the living room, the weight of silence between us. It had been years since we had been together like this, face to face, alone. Our rare meetings post-divorce always occurred in public places, often with his new wife and children present. "Tell me every detail again," he urged, leaning forward with his elbows resting on his knees. I recounted the entire story, adding details I had forgotten the first time. The exact tone of Zion's voice, his ragged breathing, the description of the darkness and the tight space. "The cell phone," Darius interrupted. "You said he has the cell phone in the casket?" "Yes. Don't you remember?" It was one of the requests in his will. Darius nodded slowly, recalling that peculiar phase when Zion had written down his wishes in case of his death. "We didn't imagine he would actually die so young." "It was an old Nokia, right? One of those indestructible ones?" "Yes," I affirmed, remembering the blue phone Zion cherished. "But still, Darius, 15 years underground long. The battery wouldn't let. How would he get a signal down there?" "It doesn't make sense," he agreed. Unless what? Unless it's not really coming from the grave." Darius stood up, pacing the living room. "Ara, have you considered that it could be something else? Someone playing a trick on you? Perhaps someone who knows about the cell phone buried with him?" I shook my head vehemently. "No, Darius, it was his voice. No one could imitate it like that. And who would be so cruel?" Darius ran a hand through his graying hair, a gesture reminiscent of Zion that sent a pang through my chest. "So what are you suggesting? That our son somehow managed to call you from inside the casket 15 years after dying?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Ara, you need to consider other possibilities. Maybe you need help." "You think I'm crazy?" It was not a question. I didn't say that. He sat down again, gripping my hands in an intimate gesture we hadn't shared in years. "I'm suggesting that grief does strange things to the mind. You never got over his death. You really never moved on." I pulled my hands away, distancing myself. "How did you move on with your perfect new wife and your perfect new kids?" "That's not fair, Lara," he replied, his voice hardening. "I lost my son, too. I suffered, too. I just chose to deal with it differently." I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself. Arguing with Darius wouldn't help me find answers. Deep down, I understood he was right. It was an absurd, impossible story. Any rational person would doubt it. "I'm going to try calling him again," I declared, seizing the phone in front of him. "You'll see." I dialed Zion's number one more time, placing it on speaker. The automated message sounded loud and clear. "The number you have dialed does not exist." "See?" Darius said gently. Just then, the phone in my hand began vibrating, interrupting him. On the screen, Zion's name flashed once more. "It's him," I shouted, nearly throwing the device. "Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this?" Darius's face went pale. He was witnessing it too. With trembling hands, I answered the call and placed it on speaker. "Zion," I called out, my voice barely working. "Mom." His voice sounded distant and choppy, as if the connection were poor. "Mom." I managed to charge the phone a bit. "There's a light now." Darius raised a hand to his mouth, eyes wide with shock. He was hearing the same voice I was. "Zion," I called louder. "Your dad is here with me. We're on speaker." "Dad? Is that you?" Darius swallowed, tears welling in his eyes. "Yes, son. It's me. What's happening to me? Why are they saying I'm dead?" Zion's voice trembled. "I remember the accident, but then everything is hazy." I looked at Darius, unsure of what to say. How does one explain to their own child that he had died, been mourned, and buried? "Zion?" Darius began, his voice choked. "You mentioned there's a light. What do you see?" "There's a type of flashlight here. It was in my jacket pocket along with the phone. I don't know how it still works, but I can see a little now. I'm in a wooden box. It's small. I can barely move." My blood froze in my veins. He was describing the casket. "What else do you see?" Darius asked, gripping my hand tightly. "There's a white cloth, and I'm wearing— Wait, it's not my clothes. It's a suit. I never had a suit like this." The funeral clothes. The suit we bought for him to be buried in. Darius and I exchanged horrified glances. "Zion," my voice trembled. "Try to push the lid. See if you can open it." We heard sounds of struggle, groans. "I can't. It's too heavy. It feels like there's something on top. Dirt, maybe." Darius took the phone from my hand, holding it closer to his face. "Zion, listen to me. We need to understand what's happening. How long have you been conscious in there?" "I don't know." His voice sounded frustrated. "It's like I just woke up from a long, confusing dream. I remember parts of my life, school, friends, you guys, but there are a lot of blurry things. It's like I've been sleeping for a long time." "And the accident?" Darius prompted. "What do you remember?" "It was raining. I was coming back from Jada's house. The bike slid on the curve. I saw the headlights coming at me very fast, then pain, so much pain, and then nothing until I woke up here in the darkness." The description matched exactly what we knew about the accident: the police reports, the witness testimonies. "Zion," I called, taking the phone back. "What's the last date you remember?" "March 10th, 2010. A Wednesday. I had a physics test." Darius and I exchanged looks again. March 10th, 2010, the day of the accident, exactly 15 years ago. "Do you remember?" I hesitated, unsure how to ask. "Do you remember dying?" Silence enveloped the conversation, just his irregular breathing on the other end. "I don't know," he whispered. "Now I remember the pain. Then a feeling of floating, like I was being pulled upward. Bright lights, voices I didn't recognize, and then darkness until I woke up here." "Mom, Dad, am I really dead?" How could we answer that? How could we tell our son that he had indeed died? "Zion," Darius took over, sparing me from having to respond. "Something very strange is happening. We need to investigate. Do you think you can maintain contact with us?" "How much battery does the phone still have?" 30%, I think. I don't know how it's still working after how long you said." 15 years, I replied, my voice faltering. "It's 2025, son." My God, he seemed to struggle to absorb the information. "So I'd be 32 now. It's so weird to think about. It feels like I was in high school yesterday." For him, it truly had been. Time had stopped at the moment of impact that took his life. 15 years in the blink of an eye. "Zion," Darius said, adopting a more practical tone. "We need to find a way to verify all this, to understand what's happening. You mentioned having a flashlight. Can you look around? See if there's anything else with you in the casket." "I'll try," he replied. We heard sounds of movement restricted by the small space. There are some dried flowers, a rosary, and an envelope. "An envelope?" I asked, surprised. "What kind of envelope?" "It looks like a letter. It has my name written on it. The handwriting is yours, Mom." The letter, I had completely forgotten about it. The night before the funeral, I wrote a farewell letter to Zion and requested it be placed in the casket. A final message for my son, words I hadn't had the chance to say while he was alive. "Can you open it?" I asked, recalling the intimate and painful content of that letter penned during a moment of unbearable despair. Yeah, I'm opening it. My dearest Zion, he began reading aloud. If there's a world beyond this one, know that you're reading these words and feeling all the love your mom has for you. He continued reading, and each word pierced my heart like a knife. Words written 15 years ago on a night of unbearable pain, now echoing back to me in the voice of the son they were directed to. And one day, when my time comes, we will be together again. Until then, I will love you and miss you with every breath. Your mom, forever. His voice cracked as he finished reading. You wrote this for me? Yes, I confirmed, tears streaming down my face. The night before your funeral. So it's true, Zion's voice sounded defeated. I'm really dead, buried. But then, how am I conscious? How am I talking to you? It was the question that tormented us all, a question for which we had no answer. I don't know, son, Darius replied, putting an arm around my shoulders in a protective gesture that surprised me. But we're going to figure it out. I promise you, we're not going to leave you alone in this. The battery is dying again, Zion said, his voice suddenly alarmed. I only have 10% now. It's going to turn off soon. Zion, listen, I spoke quickly. We're going to try to find out what's happening. We're going to find a way to help you. Just don't despair. It's okay. We're here. We're going to find you somehow. I'm scared, Mom, he whispered, suddenly sounding like the boy who used to run to my bed during thunderstorms. I'm scared of being left alone in the darkness when the battery dies. I'm scared you won't be able to find me. We're going to find you, I promised, even though I had no idea how to keep that promise. Just hang on. Try to save the battery. Only call if it's really important. Okay, he agreed, his voice weak. Dad, Mom, I love you. We love you too, son, we replied in unison, just like in the old days when we tucked him in. The call ended abruptly. The phone screen returned to normal, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred, but the tears in Darius's eyes confirmed that he had heard it too. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't madness. Somehow, our son was contacting us from beyond the grave. What do we do now? I asked, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. Darius stood up, pacing the room, his analytical engineer's mind clearly working overtime. We need to be methodical. First, establish the facts. What do we know for sure? We know Zion died 15 years ago. We know we buried him. We know that somehow he's conscious and managed to call us. And what does that mean? Darius rubbed his face, suddenly appearing much older. It's impossible for him to be alive in the casket, not after 15 years. I know, I shivered at the implications. So what? Ghost? Restless soul? Some kind of residual consciousness? Darius had always been the more skeptical of us, and a man of science who believed only in what he could see and touch. Observing him now, considering supernatural possibilities, illustrated how deeply that call had affected him. I don't know, but I know we need help. He grabbed his phone. I'm calling Kai. Kai Lewis, Darius's best friend since college, a forensic pathologist working at the county morgue, someone who would understand the scientific aspects of the situation. Do you think it's a good idea to involve more people? I questioned nervously. What if he thinks we're crazy? Kai knows me well enough to know I wouldn't make something like this up, Darius replied, already dialing. We need someone who understands the science part. Also, we're going to need some kind of authorization to exhume the body. The word exhumation made my stomach churn. The thought of digging up Zion, of seeing what remained of him after 15 years, was too disturbing. Do you really think we should do that? I asked, my voice low. Darius looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen in years. If that were you, trapped somewhere between life and death, wouldn't you want us to do everything in our power to help you? He was right. If there was any chance of assisting our son, we needed to try, no matter how unsettling the idea was. Kai left shortly thereafter, promising to immediately initiate the process for the exhumation authorization. Darius decided to stay with me, settling onto the living room couch. It felt strange having him back in the house we shared for so many years, the house where we raised our son, the house he abandoned when grief became unbearable. Night fell, bringing with it an oppressive darkness. Neither of us could sleep. We remained in the living room, Darius on the couch, me in the armchair. The silence was heavy between us, punctuated only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the whisper of leaves rustling in the wind outside. You still keep his things, don't you? Darius suddenly asked, glancing toward the hallway leading to Zion's room. Yes, I admitted. I didn't change anything. He nodded without judgment. Can I see? I guided him down the hall to the room that had remained untouched for 15 years. I opened the door slowly, as if afraid of waking someone. The smell of dust and suspended time greeted us. The curtains were drawn, but I turned on the light, revealing the sanctuary I had created for my son. The bed was still made with the Batman blanket he loved, even though it was a child's thing for a 17-year-old. The desk was piled with school books, an unfinished math assignment lying open in the notebook, rock band posters on the walls, and his guitar in the corner, covered in dust, silenced by time. Darius stood in the doorway, taking it all in. I noticed his hands tremble slightly. You accused me of moving on too quickly, he said softly. Maybe you're right, but maybe it's because I couldn't do this. I couldn't preserve the memories like you did. He walked slowly through the room, reverently touching the objects. He paused in front of the trophy shelf, swimming, chess, science competitions. Zion had always been a brilliant boy, destined for great things, a life abruptly interrupted before it could fully bloom. Look at this. Darius picked up a small black notebook from a half-open desk drawer. Zion's journal. My heart raced. I had never mustered the courage to read it. Me neither, he said, holding the notebook delicately as if it were a precious artifact. Maybe we should now. Perhaps there's something in here that can help us understand. We sat on Zion's bed, side by side, with the journal between us. With trembling fingers, Darius opened to the first page. January 10th, 2010, he read aloud. I had that dream again, the one about the accident. So real. I woke up in a cold sweat. In the dream, I'm riding my bike in the rain. I see the headlights getting closer. I feel the impact. Then I'm floating above everything, watching my own broken body on the asphalt. It's terrifying, but also strangely peaceful. We exchanged alarmed glances. The dream's description matched precisely the accident that would take his life 2 months later. A shiver ran down my spine. Darius continued reading, turning the pages carefully. The entries detailed the daily life of a typical teenager: exams, friends, the girl he liked, arguments with his parents. But there was something else, something disturbing that recurred in several entries: dreams about his own death. Always the same scenario, always the same feeling of watching from the outside. March 1st, 2010, Darius read, his voice heavy. Just 10 days before the accident, the dream got more intense. This time I saw the funeral. I saw Mom crying over my casket. I saw Dad trying to be strong but falling apart when he thought no one was watching. I saw my friends standing in a circle, not knowing what to say. It's so vivid that I'm starting to wonder if they're really dreams or something else. Premonitions, warnings, I'm scared, but also curious. My breathing faltered. Zion had dreamed about his own death, his own funeral, weeks before it happened. He knew, I murmured, stunned. Somehow he knew what was going to happen. Darius turned to the last entry, dated March 10th, 2010, the day of the accident. Today is the day. I don't know how I'm so sure, but I am. Last night's dream was so real that I can still feel the impact. The metal tearing my skin, the bones breaking. I should be terrified, but strangely, I'm not. It's like it's inevitable, like it's destined. If something happens to me today, I want Mom and Dad to know I love them more than anything. And I also want them to know that it won't be the end. Somehow, I'm going to find a way back to them. I'm going to find a way to say I'm okay, that I just changed forms. P.S. If I'm right, please bury my cell phone with me. It might sound weird, but I have a feeling I'm going to need it. The journal fell from Darius's hands. The silence that followed was dense with impossible implications. He knew, I repeated, my voice almost inaudible. They weren't just dreams. He saw the future, and he knew that somehow, someday, he would contact us. The cell phone, Darius murmured. He asked to be buried with the phone because he knew he would need it to communicate with us. An understanding of what was happening began to form in our minds, still hazy, still incomplete, but with more defined contours. Zion had somehow foreseen his own death, had prepared for it, and now, 15 years later, he was fulfilling his promise to find a way back to us. As if responding to our thoughts, my cell phone rang. Zion's name flashed on the screen. We answered together, Darius leaning in to listen. Zion, I called out, my heart pounding. Mom, Dad. His voice sounded different now, firmer, more assured. You're in my room, right? You just finished reading my journal. I was paralyzed with shock. How? How do you know that? I can see you, he answered calmly. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I'm in two places at once. I'm still here in the darkness, but I can also observe, like in the dreams I used to have. Darius took the phone, his eyes wide with shock. Zion, are you saying you can see us right now? Yes, Mom is wearing that blue shirt I gave her for Mother's Day many years ago. You're holding my swimming trophy from the state championship. It was true. Darius had just grabbed the trophy from the shelf as we spoke. There was no way Zion could know that unless he could truly see us. My God, Darius whispered, this is terrifying. I know, Zion continued. It is for me too. I'm learning to control this. At first, it was just darkness, but now it's like I can project my consciousness outward, see things, hear things. Can you see other people besides us? I asked, trying to grasp scope of this impossible ability. Yes, I can see Kai at the precinct right now, filling out forms. You're processing the exhumation, aren't you? A shiver ran down my spine. How did he know about Kai? How did he know about the exhumation? Zion, what's happening to you? Darius asked, his voice trembling. Are you dead? Alive? What? There was a pause before he answered. I don't know exactly. My body is here, but it's not alive in the normal sense. It's preserved somehow, as if time has stopped for it, but my consciousness is somewhere else, in many places at once. This is impossible, Darius murmured, the rational engineer struggling against the supernatural evidence. Many things are impossible until they happen, Zion replied. Mom always used to say that. Son, I asked, trying to make sense of it all. Why now? Why wait 15 years to contact us? I didn't wait. His voice sounded almost surprised. For me, it was like waking up from a long sleep. I didn't realize how much time had passed, but now that I'm awake, I can feel time in a different way. I can see what I lost. I can see how much you suffered, and I can see that maybe I can return. Return? Darius and I spoke in unison. What does that mean? I'm not sure, Zion admitted, but I know you need to open the grave. I need you to get me out of there. There's something that needs to be done, something I can't explain yet, like an instinct. Darius and I exchanged frightened yet hopeful glances. The idea of Zion returning somehow was as impossible as it was wonderful. We're trying, son, Darius assured him. Kai is taking care of the paperwork for the exhumation, but it might take days, maybe a week. That's too late, Zion's voice replied urgently. The connection is getting stronger, but it's temporary. I feel like there's a window of opportunity. If we miss it, I might not be able to return. How much time do we have? I asked, desperation rising. 3 days, maybe less. It's hard to explain, but I can feel it like a tide that rises and falls. I'm at the peak now, but it will start to diminish soon. Darius stood up, determined. I'm going to talk to Kai. We're going to expedite the process. If we don't get the authorization in time, he didn't finish the sentence, but I understood what he meant. We would do whatever was necessary, legal or not. There's something else, Zion continued, his voice suddenly serious. I'm not alone here. There are others like me, people trapped between worlds. Some are confused, scared, others are angry. Not everyone has good intentions. A shiver ran down my spine. What do you mean? Some want to return for the wrong reasons. Vengeance, obsession, power. If they find a way back like I'm trying to do, it would be dangerous. Darius's face turned grave as he concluded. Very. I'm trying to hold them back, block the path, but I'm getting tired. I don't know how much longer I can. The implication was clear and terrifying. Our son wasn't just trying to find a way back to us. He was serving as some kind of guardian, preventing other spirits with dark intentions from escaping. How can we help? I asked, determination replacing fear. Just get me out of there, he replied. The rest I can try to resolve once we're reunited somehow. The call started to fail. Zion's voice became choppy with static. I'm losing connection. Battery dying. Zion, I screamed into the phone. Hold on, we're coming for you. I know you will. His voice was just a whisper now. I love you both very much. And then silence. The call had dropped. Darius already had his phone in hand, calling Kai. He spoke quickly and urgently, explaining the need to speed up the process. I watched him, a new resolve growing within me. If bureaucracy didn't work in time, we would take matters into our own hands. The next 24 hours became a race against time. Kai utilized all his influence at the morgue and the police department to accelerate the authorization. Darius mobilized old work colleagues, some with political connections. I remained home, waiting for new calls from Zion, the phone always within reach, volume turned high. He didn't call again that day or the next. Anxiety grew with each passing hour. Kai assured us that the authorization would be issued within 48 hours, fast by bureaucratic standards, but still potentially too late, according to Zion's warning. On the morning of the third day, Darius and Kai arrived with news. The authorization comes out this afternoon, Kai explained, his face weary from lack of sleep. They scheduled the exhumation for tomorrow morning. That's too late, I replied, recalling Zion's warning. He said 3 days at most. Today is the third day. Darius and Kai exchanged meaningful looks. We have an alternative plan, Darius spoke softly, as if afraid of being overheard. It's not legal, but the cemetery watchman, Kai completed, Mr. Silas, he agreed to let us in tonight after closing. He'll bring the necessary equipment. We'll do everything discreetly. And then, I inquired, even if we manage to open the casket, what will we do? One step at a time, Darius replied. First, we need to see what's inside, understand what Zion meant by return. We spent the day in a state of contained anxiety, preparing for the night. Kai brought dark clothing for everyone, flashlights and tools. Darius prepared the car with fake documents in case we were stopped by the police. I packed food, water, and blankets, acting more out of maternal instinct than logic. By 10 p.m., the cemetery had been closed for an hour. We drove there in silence, each lost in our thoughts. Mr. Silas awaited us at the back gate, his expression grim yet resolute. I have everything ready, he said quietly. The tools are hidden near the grave. No one comes here at this hour, but we need to be fast and quiet. The cemetery at night was a completely different realm. Shadows seemed to dance between the graves, and the silence was broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves in the wind. We followed Mr. Silas alongside paths, avoiding the main trails where the moonlight would make us more visible. Zion's grave beneath the big oak tree appeared to be waiting for us. Beside it, hidden under bushes, was a small hydraulic shovel, the kind used for minor construction in confined spaces. I borrowed it from the maintenance crew, Mr. Silas explained. It will save us hours of manual labor. Kai and Darius immediately got to work, operating the small machine carefully to minimize noise. The soil over Zion's grave had compacted after 15 years, but the machine cut through it with surprising efficiency. I stood guard, my eyes alert for any movement, my ears sharp for any sound that didn't belong to the night. My cell phone was in my pocket, silent but ready for any new contact attempt from Zion. After nearly an hour of work, the hydraulic shovel struck something solid. The sound of the machine hitting wood made my heart leap. The casket, Darius announced in a whisper. Now we need to work by hand. The three men grabbed manual shovels, carefully clearing the dirt around the casket to reveal its contours. I moved closer, unable to stay away at that crucial moment. The casket appeared well preserved, protected by the dry soil. It's a good casket, Mr. Silas murmured. Treated wood, sealed against moisture, which explains why it's so well preserved. When they finally cleared enough dirt to expose the entire lid, Darius and Kai positioned themselves on either side. Ready? Darius asked, looking at each of us. I nodded, unable to speak. Kai took a deep breath, preparing for whatever we might find. Mr. Silas made the sign of the cross. Together, the two men lifted the casket lid. The smell that escaped was not the odor of decomposition we feared, but a strange, almost medicinal scent. A soft bluish light emanated from within, illuminating the astonished faces of the men. I pushed my way between them to look. Nothing could have prepared me for the sight that awaited me. Zion was there, his body impeccably preserved as if he had been buried yesterday. There were no signs of decay, no indications of the 15 years that had elapsed. His face appeared to be asleep, serene. He wore the same dark suit from the funeral, his hands crossed over his chest. Beneath them, glowing with that strange bluish light, was his old cell phone. My God, Kai murmured, the scientist in him grappling with the impossible sight before his eyes. This can't be real. There should only be bones. Darius reached out a trembling hand, touching our son's face. He's warm, not cold like a corpse, not hot like a living person, just warm. The sight was so surreal, so far outside any known logic or science, that for a moment none of us could move. It felt as if time had been suspended inside that casket, preserving Zion exactly as he was on the day of his funeral. Slowly, I moved forward and touched his face. The skin was firm and elastic, resembling that of a living person, yet there was no pulse, no visible breathing, only that strange intermediate temperature, neither alive nor dead. The phone, I pointed out, it's glowing. It was true. The small blue Nokia beneath his hands emitted that supernatural light, illuminating the inside of the casket. When I leaned in to touch it, the screen lit up on its own, displaying a message: "Get me out of here. Take me home. I have little time." We didn't hesitate. Darius and Kai, with Mr. Silas's assistance, carefully removed Zion's body from the casket. He was lighter than he should have been, as if the matter of his body had been partially replaced by something less dense, less physical. Together, we wrapped Zion in the blanket I had brought and carried him back to the car. The cell phone in his hand continued to glow, now pulsing like a heart, its rhythm accelerating as we drove away from the cemetery. No one spoke during the journey. What could we say in the face of something so far beyond our comprehension? We decided to take him to my house, the place where he grew up, the last place he lived. It felt right. Kai and Mr. Silas helped us carry him inside, gently placing him on his own bed, in the room that had remained untouched for 15 years. "I've never seen anything like it in my entire career," Kai murmured, still examining Zion's motionless body. There are no conventional vital signs, but there is also no rigor mortis or any sign of decomposition. It's as if he's in a completely different state of matter. The cell phone in Zion's hand flashed again, displaying a new message. Water, sunlight, music. We exchanged bewildered glances until I understood. He's telling us what he needs. I quickly brought a glass of water and pressed it against his lips. To our surprise, he seemed to absorb the liquid, although there was no movement in his throat. I opened the curtains, allowing the rising sun's light to bathe his face. Darius found the old radio on the nightstand and turned it on to a station playing classical music, the type Zion always enjoyed. The phone flashed again. "Thank you. Now I need to rest. Tomorrow." Kai and Mr. Silas left shortly thereafter, promising to return in the morning. Both swore to keep what they had witnessed a secret. Darius and I remained in Zion's room, one on each side of the bed, watching our son in his impossible state, neither alive nor dead. "What happens now?" I whispered, holding Zion's inert yet strangely warm hand. Darius shook his head. "I don't know. We're in unknown territory." But he asked us to bring him home, and we did. Now we need to trust him. We spent the night in silent vigil. At some point, I fell asleep in the chair beside the bed. I dreamt of Zion, not the teenager I had lost, but an adult man as he would have been if he had lived. In the dream, he smiled and said, "It's almost time, Mom. Just a little longer." I woke at dawn to a strange humming filling the room. Darius stirred, looking around in confusion. The source of the sound was Zion's cell phone, which was now glowing intensely, the bluish light pulsing at an increasingly rapid rhythm. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, Zion's body began to change. The skin, which had been deathly pale, gained color. The previously rigid fingers moved slightly. The eyes, closed for 15 years, trembled beneath their lids as if coming out of a deep sleep. "Darius," I whispered, gripping his hand, "something is happening." The humming intensified, becoming almost unbearable. The light from the cell phone enveloped Zion's entire body in a cocoon of light. For a moment, I feared he might disintegrate, vanish before our eyes. But then I realized he was transforming. The teenage face softened, the contours subtly shifting, aging. The body beneath the funeral suit seemed to fill out, gaining mass and height. It was like watching 15 years pass in mere minutes. Time, recovering its normal course, accelerated. And then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The humming went silent. The light retracted into the cell phone before turning off completely. The room returned to normal, illuminated only by the rising sun. Zion opened his eyes. They were no longer those of a 17-year-old boy, but of a 32-year-old man, the age he would be now. His face had changed, matured, yet it was still unmistakably him. "Mom," he said, his voice now deeper and more resonant. "Dad." We fell on him in a desperate embrace, tears streaming down our faces. It was impossible. It was a miracle. Our son had returned from the dead, not as a ghost or a zombie, but as a living, whole man who seemed to have lived every one of the 15 years he had lost. How? Darius could only manage to say, holding Zion's face in his hands, examining him with wide eyes. Zion smiled, an adult smile with fine lines at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been there before. "It's complicated. I don't fully understand it myself. Time works differently on the other side," he continued. "It's not linear like it is here. I lived many lives there. I learned things. I grew. When I realized there was a way back, that I could return if the conditions were right." He looked at the cell phone, now plain and ordinary in his hand. "This was the link, the connection that kept me tied to this world. And you too were the beacon that guided me back." "But how is this possible?" I asked, still struggling to fully grasp the miracle before me. "Your science doesn't have words for this yet," Zion replied gently. "Parallel dimensions maybe, or alternative states of consciousness. The important thing is that I'm here. I returned, not exactly as I was." He examined his hands, now larger and stronger, with small scars and calluses that hadn't been there before. "This body reflects the experiences I had there, the growth, the learning, as if I lived those 15 years elsewhere." Darius, ever the pragmatist, began contemplating the implications. "How are we going to explain this? Legally, you're dead. You don't exist in the system." Zion smiled again. "Well, we'll have time to figure that out. Kai can help. Maybe a story about mistaken identity, amnesia, something like that. The important thing is that I'm back." His expression suddenly grew serious. "But I'm not the only one who found the way. Others are trying to follow." Darius and I exchanged alarmed glances. Like I warned, not all with good intentions. "What can we do?" I asked, determination replacing fear. "For now, nothing. I closed the portal behind me as best I could, but we need to be vigilant." He gazed out the window at the world outside, a world he hadn't seen in 15 years. "So many things have changed. I have a lot to learn about this life again." In the days that followed, we watched in awe as Zion readjusted to life. His body functioned perfectly, though at times he seemed clumsy, as if reacquainting himself with muscles that had been dormant for a long time. His mind was sharp, absorbing information with remarkable speed and adapting to the technological and social changes of the past 15 years. Kai assisted with the legal side, fabricating an elaborate story of mistaken identity and prolonged amnesia. It wasn't perfect, but with his connections and a bit of record manipulation, he managed to establish a new identity for Zion, not as someone resurrected from the dead, but as someone who had never truly died. As for me, I transitioned from grieving mother to mother of an adult son in a matter of days. It was strange, disorienting, and wonderful. Zion was no longer the boy I had lost, but a complex man with knowledge and skills that transcended his earthly education. Occasionally, I found him gazing at the horizon with a distant expression, as if he were seeing things none of us could comprehend. In those moments, I realized that part of him remained connected to the other side, the mysterious place where his consciousness had resided for 15 years. One evening, while sitting on the porch and watching the stars, I asked if he missed that place. "Sometimes," he admitted. "It was peaceful there in a way. No physical limitations, no weight of linear time, but it lacked something essential." "What?" I inquired. He smiled, a smile that was both familiar and new. "This humanity, connection, the beauty of being alive with all its imperfections and challenges. It's worth being here, even knowing that one day I'll have to leave again." I held his hand, larger, stronger, and more callous than the hand of the boy I buried, but still unmistakably the hand of my son. "When that day comes, I'll be ready to let you go," I promised. "This time I'll know it's not goodbye forever." Zion nodded, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of someone who had lived between worlds. "It's never goodbye forever, Mom. Only see you soon." I buried my son 15 years ago. I visited his grave religiously every Sunday and kept his room intact as a sanctuary for his memory. And then, one ordinary night, my phone rang with a call from beyond. Today he sits beside me, not as the boy I lost, but as the man he became on another plane of existence. Death, I learned, is not the end of the story. Sometimes it's merely the beginning of a new and extraordinary journey. Did you enjoy the story? Which city are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending us super thanks so I can continue bringing you more tales like this. Thank you so much for your kind support. I look forward to reading your comments on the story. On the screen, you'll see two new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.